Hello, I'm Tom Wilkinson, and welcome to the Thinking in English podcast, a podcast for intermediate to advanced level English learners. Debating is an excellent way of practicing English. It forces you to present information and arguments in English, it challenges your listening comprehension, and it helps you communicate confidently. This episode explains the concept of a debate, talks about how debates are structured, and introduces some really useful vocabulary and phrases. You can find a free transcript for this episode over on my blog, thinkinginenglish.blog, or on Spotify. Here is today's vocabulary list. To rebut. To rebut. To refute or disprove an argument or claim. As in, during the debate, she managed to rebut all the opposing team's points effectively. Persuade. Persuade. To cause someone to do something through reasoning or argument. For example, the speaker used compelling evidence to persuade the audience to support her viewpoint. Affirmative. Affirmative. Agreeing with or supporting a statement or request. For instance, in the debate, the affirmative team argued in favour of the new policy. Counterargument. Counterargument. An argument or set of reasons put forward to oppose an idea or theory developed in another argument. For example, he presented a strong counter-argument to challenge the main points. Statement. Statement. A clear expression of something in speech or writing. As in, her opening statement clearly outlined the main arguments for the proposal. Structure. Structure. The arrangement or organization of something. For example, the structure of a formal debate includes opening statements, rebuttals, and closing statements. To present. To present. To show or display something, especially formally. For instance, each debater was given 5 minutes to present their arguments to the panel of judges. In 2022, I was a research student at a Japanese university, and I decided to take a few interesting Japanese language classes that I thought would be useful as a student and researcher. One class was on casual conversation language. My favourite class was public speaking and presentation skills. And perhaps the most useful class was debating in Japanese. This class was very difficult. It was slightly above my Japanese level, but I decided to challenge myself. We had to read an article in Japanese. Then our teacher would split us into 3 groups. We were given roles and then had to debate or judge a debate. Thinking of different arguments on a topic you're not familiar with in a foreign language is a great way of building your skills. We'll talk more about debates later in this episode, but in a formal debate, you often don't get to choose whether you are arguing for or against a resolution. The most challenging part of the debate class was comprehension. I had to listen to my opposition's arguments, take notes and think about rebuttals, my responses to what they were saying, and then say those rebuttals in Japanese with no real time to prepare. It was incredible practice and forced my brain to work overtime and use as much Japanese as possible. As I found debating so useful a few years ago, I thought I would introduce the basics of debating in this episode and give you some useful phrases and vocabulary that you can use in formal debates and also in more casual discussions and arguments. First, let's talk about the differences between debating, arguing, and discussion. Debating is a structured exchange of arguments with specific rules and a formal setting. In a debate, participants are usually divided into two sides, one supporting a resolution and the other opposing it. Each side presents their arguments, rebuts the opposing arguments, and tries to persuade an audience or a panel of judges. In formal debates, such as those in schools or debate clubs, there are strict rules about speaking times and the order in which participants speak. This structure helps ensure that the debate is fair and that each side has an equal opportunity to present their case. For example, in a high school debate competition, the topic might be, should school uniforms be mandatory? The affirmative side would argue in favour of mandatory uniforms, while the negative side would argue against them. Each team would have time to present their arguments, cross-examine the other team, and make closing statements. Unlike debating, arguing is often informal and can be emotionally driven. Arguments typically occur in everyday situations where people have conflicting viewpoints. The key difference here is that arguments lack the formal structure of debates and can sometimes become heated or personal. When people argue, they might not follow a clear structure or set of rules. Instead, they might interrupt each other, raise their voices, or use emotional appeals rather than logical arguments. For instance, a couple might argue about how to spend their weekend, with one person wanting to stay in and relax, while the other wants to go out and socialize. This argument might involve a lot of back and forth without a clear resolution. You will notice that argument has two definitions here. When you have an argument with your father, it is typically an angry exchange of different opinions, right? Having an argument with someone. In a debate, essay, or when thinking of new ideas, argument instead refers to line of reasoning, or a reason given in support of an idea, action, or theory. In debating, when we talk about arguments, we mean your reasons and your evidence, rather than an angry exchange with your opposition. I also think I should briefly mention discussing and discussions. A discussion is a more neutral exchange of ideas and opinions, usually without the formal structure of a debate or the anger of an argument. Discussions aim to share information and explore different perspectives. In a discussion, participants take turns speaking, listen to each other, and build on each other's ideas. Discussions are common in both personal and professional settings. For example, in a business meeting, team members might discuss the best approach for a new project. Each person contributes their thoughts, and the group works together to come to a consensus, a shared opinion. A key aspect of discussions is that they are cooperative rather than competitive. The goal is not to win or lose, but to understand each other's viewpoints and find common ground. Debates can vary in format and setting, but they generally fall into two categories, formal and informal. Formal debates are structured events with strict rules and guidelines. Examples include parliamentary debates, policy debates, and competitive debates in schools and universities. In formal debates, participants follow a specific format, adhere to time limits, and often have judges who evaluate their performance. Informal debates are more relaxed and can occur in everyday situations, such as classroom discussions or casual conversations with friends. They may not have the same strict rules as formal debates, but they still involve presenting and defending arguments. Most debates share some common key features that help structure the exchange of ideas. The resolution or motion is the statement or topic being debated. It's usually phrased as a proposition, such as, social media has a positive impact on society. The resolution provides a clear focus for the debate and defines what is being argued. In a debate, there are typically two sides, the affirmative and the negative. The affirmative side supports the resolution and presents arguments in favour of it. The negative side opposes the resolution and presents counter-arguments. In that previous resolution, the affirmative side will argue that social media has a positive impact on society, and the negative side will argue that social media does not have a positive impact on society. Each side begins with an opening statement, where they introduce their main arguments. The opening statements set the stage for the debate and outline the key points each side will discuss. After the opening statements, each side has the opportunity to respond to the opponent's arguments. This is known as the rebuttal phase. During rebuttals, debaters aim to refute the opposing side's points and strengthen their own case. If there are 3 people on each team, the debate might look like this. The first affirmative debater will speak, clearly setting out their team's interpretation of the topics, defining concepts, and providing arguments. The first negative debater will then try to shape the debate in the way they considered it, challenge any definitions if they have different ideas, and rebut the opposition's arguments. Then, the second speakers will use their turns to rebut the previous speaker and introduce new arguments. The third speakers will rebut the second speakers and any strong attacks, and then will conclude their team's positions. In some debates, there is a cross-examination phase where debaters can ask questions to the opposing side. This helps to clarify arguments, expose weaknesses, and gather more information. At the end of the debate, each side delivers a closing statement. This is a summary of their main points and a final attempt to persuade the audience or judges. The closing statements should reinforce the key arguments and address any remaining issues. There are 3 main roles in a debate. The main participants are the debaters, who present arguments and counter-arguments. Debaters need to research their topic, organize their points, and deliver their speeches confidently. The moderators ensure that the debate follows the rules and stays on track. They manage the speaking times, introduce the speakers, and sometimes pose questions to the debaters. In formal debates, judges evaluate the performance of the debaters based on criteria such as argument strength, delivery, and rebuttal effectiveness. Judges decide the winner of the debate. Sometimes there are no judges, if it's more informal debate or a political debate, and sometimes the moderators and judges are the same people. I think it would be useful to introduce some language and phrases for debating. I actually covered arguing vocabulary extensively in the previous How to Argue episode 260, if you want more vocabulary. First, let's think about the basic structure of a good debating argument. A good debating argument has 3 steps. First is the claim. This is a clear and direct statement of your argument. Second is evidence. You could use statistics, quotes, personal anecdotes, or something similar to support and prove your claim. And third is the impact or significance. Explain how the evidence you presented supports your claim and why it is important. For example, using the resolution from earlier, social media has a positive impact on society, and this structure, you could say this. Social media has a positive impact on society by encouraging global communication and connectivity. For example, a study by the Pew Research Center found that 72% of adults in the United States use social media to connect with friends and family, share information, and stay updated on current events. This widespread use of social media enhances global connectivity, allowing individuals to maintain relationships, exchange cultural insights, and stay informed about global issues, ultimately promoting a more interconnected and informed society. You can use this structure, claim, evidence, and impact, in your daily life, when writing IELTS essays, or just when talking with other people. It's a very simple structure for presenting an argument or an idea. Now let's quickly go through some useful vocabulary that you can use in debates and also when presenting arguments in other situations, when you're writing or when you're arguing. When introducing an argument, we can use phrases like, "I firmly believe that," "Our position is that," "We contend that." If you want to support an argument with evidence, for example, according to, research shows that, this is evident from. When countering or rebutting an argument, on the contrary, evidence shows that. However, we must consider, in response to that point, it's important to note that. When concluding or summarizing your arguments, in summary, the evidence clearly indicates. Therefore, we strongly advocate for. To conclude, we have demonstrated that. Additionally, there are some common expressions that can be useful in various parts of a debate. So if you want to elaborate or clarify, let me elaborate. To clarify, what I mean is, to emphasize a point, it's crucial to understand that. Significantly. I'd like to stress that. To acknowledge the opponent's point, while it's true that, although we recognize, despite the fact that, to transition between points. Additionally, moving on to our next point. Furthermore. Hopefully these few phrases have been useful. Go onto the blog, go onto the transcript and make notes of these phrases and try and use them in your daily English. So here is today's final thought. Today we've explored the differences between debating, arguing and discussing, looked into the structure, format and key features of a debate, and learned some essential debating vocabulary. Hopefully, using this knowledge, you're now able to debate confidently and effectively using clear claims, supporting evidence and impactful conclusions. Perhaps I could start a Thinking in English debate club in the future. Let me know if you're interested. But what do you think? Have you ever taken part in a debate? Are you good at arguing? Are you good at debating? Which of these phrases do you think will be most useful in your daily life? Try and leave a comment on Spotify. I can now reply to comments on Spotify, so if you listen on Spotify, leave a comment, practice some of the phrases I've used in this episode. maybe make an argument or make a debating point, and I'll reply and I'll let you know what I think. I think it's really good for you to listen to a podcast and then to actively use that information and practice. You can do this by leaving comments on Spotify. You can also comment on the transcript, Thinking in English blog transcript, or you can reach out to me on Patreon or Discord and join our conversation clubs where we host events based on our episodes, based on my episodes. So you're able to listen and then practice. Thank you all so much for listening. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.